friends, this is Wakeangel2K1, and it brings me great joy to say I finally got my hands on Jakks Pacific Sonic the Hedgehog figures. And not only Sonic, but also Shadow and Tails. I picked these up at the Collector Cave, the last active comic book store in the Bronx, which is really sad, but also, like, I'm glad it's there. Like, if you have a local comic or toy store in your area, I would recommend patronizing them as often as you can, because like these local retailers really need our help, and like I did not want to have to pay scalper prices to get these things online. So thank you to the Collector Cave for actually getting these things in. So yes, that's it. The back of the packaging just shows off that they have Articulation and all the other figures in the series. And as you know, I already had Eggman. He was sent to me as a gift. So let's get these guys out of their boxes. I figured the best way to get this video started is just do a quick side-by-side comparison to show all the Wave 1 figures so that we could see just how tall everybody is in relation to each other. I really like the way that Tails is specifically scaled to be shorter than Sonic this time. And if you look at the eye lines, Sonic and Shadow are both like barely belly button up on Dr. Eggman. It's just that their very large heads are actually almost up to his shoulder height. Not sure how to interpret this. Like, assuming Eggman is a 50th percentile 6 foot tall man, then, well, actually that's not 50th percentile, that's actually quite tall, but officially speaking, I believe Dr. Eggman is supposed to be 6 feet. Then, like I said, this goes by generation scaling, because that's how tall Sonic would. I redid my math. Sonic would have to be about 4'6" if he was the height that he was next to Classic Sonic, and Classic Sonic was 1 meter tall, which translates to roughly 3'4". So, yeah, I'm saying, like, if you want a 4'6" Sonic, like, it's ambiguous as to where the top of his actual head is, as opposed to what's just his spines, which accounts for hair. But yeah, you know, it all depends on how you like scale. So do you want teeny little 1 meter tall Sonic, or do you want a Sonic that actually looks like he could be something credible next to Dr. Eggman? Okay, so yeah, that's just how they all stand up next to each other. Some people might argue that we should have an Eggman that's maybe at least an inch taller. I wouldn't say no to that, but as things stand, they're all pretty darn good. I like them like this. Okay, one more. Shadow is, of course, the most difficult to stand because his head is the biggest and makes his center of gravity the highest, but also this stage isn't exactly completely stable. It's a piece of foam board on a chair. Okay, a couple more height comparisons. If you have a Jakks Pacific or Figuart Mario figure, then there you go. You got your Smash Brothers / Mario and Sonic at the Olympics comparison right there. They are the perfect height for each other. I absolutely love the fact that I have a Mario and a Sonic that are the same height. This is everything I wanted. Thank you very much, Jakks Pacific, and I forgive you for monkey pawing me back in the day. And yes, this Sonic is the same height as the Bendy. Alright, okay, now I'm going to address the elephant in the room before we get down into their individual figures. These guys do not have elbows. Dr. Eggman has elbows, but Sonic, Tails, and Shadow do not. Some would argue that with how skinny their arms are, putting an elbow joint would be a little bit difficult because of how thin it is. But I point out the Inkling figure's arm is every bit as skinny, if not a little bit skinnier, and it still has a fully functioning elbow and wrist joint. So I don't see why this elbow could not have been given to this figure. And if anybody asks, no, I can't just swap the arms, because the way Jakks Pacific figures are built, you can't take the shoulders out of the torsos. They're just not built that way. So I can't take these shoulders out and swap them for other pieces. The hands are on ball joints and they can be popped off, but not the shoulders. So nope, there will be no arm swapping. It is what it is. This is just how the Sonic figures are going to be. Although if Jakks Pacific comes out with a later wave that actually does have elbow joints, I'm just enough of a sucker to get those. Alright, so let's do the individual reviews now. Okay, real quick, Sonic the Hedgehog comes with one accessory, the Star Spring. It actually is spring-loaded, but you're not going to really be launching anything with it. Oh, that was actually kind of cool. I did not expect it to go that far. Alright, that's a gimmick. Look at that. Woo! Okay, that's legitimately interesting. Look at that. Okay, so it's the same spring that he uses in Super Smash Brothers. So boing. Sonic has a swivel cut, and he looks darn good. Look at that face. His mouth is sculpted in, and it's painted so that he has real definition in that lip. Look at those beautiful eyes. A little bit iffy on the inside of the ears, which looks like airbrushing got a little bit out of control. But aside from that, pretty darn good. I like how the stomach is a very well-defined circle. I feel like, unlike on the 2.5-inch figure, it doesn't feel like they didn't put enough coats on there. He has pin disc shoulder joints. The disc is actually quite tight. Ball jointed wrists, so not only can they swivel, they can also curl a little bit. Pin disc hips, which are actually set slightly differently than they are in the Jazzwares figures. They go up a little bit deeper into the figure, but not so much that you don't get a good range of motion forward and backwards. It's a pin disc, so you can also make it go out. There's another pin disc in the knee, and a ball joint in the ankle. And ball jointed ankles are extremely useful for Sonic because they help make flat-footed stances. So these figures are actually capable of taking much more action-oriented stances than the Jazzwares figures ever were. That is pretty darn fantastic. I love it. And although they do not come with stands, there are holes in their feet, so if there are compatible stands, you might be able to stick them on. In fact, I do believe I have some Sonic stands within arm's reach. Hold on just a moment. Yep, 100% confirmed. Absolutely compatible with the Jazzwares stands. Look at that. But yes, like I said, even though they're compatible with the old Jazzwares stands, thanks to those wonderful ball-jointed ankles, they are not actually necessary. You can actually get this Sonic figure to easily stand, and he's not all top-heavy because of his huge spines. That's freaking wonderful. Here's the Shadow figure. I'm not going to go in the breakdown of Articulation. Suffice to say, it's identical to Sonic's. So let's take this time to admire his sculpt and paintwork. He also has a sculpted-in mouth with a thin line of paint, beautifully painted eyes, a little bit of overspray on the inside of the ears, but everything else on him is super clean and beautiful. Love the paintwork. Instead of yellow, they use gold for the rings on his wrists and his shoes, and even the bottoms of his shoes. I like that they went to the effort to paint the bottoms of the shoes. Some toy companies would skip that detail. And oh my god, look at that chest floof. All of his floof is beautifully sculpted. Wonderful. I love that. This is actually one of the best sculpted shadows I've ever seen, and the fact that it's a 4-inch scale figure probably helps with that, because you can get details that you wouldn't be able to put in a 3-inch. Only weakness I've seen is that this one has, it's either I think it's his hips. The pin discs on his hips don't want to set completely right, and it makes him lean back just enough that he wants to fall backwards. It can compensate with the ball joints in his ankles, but I keep on feeling like I have to have him leaning forward slightly in order to keep him from falling forward. You see how his hips just want to fall back? I think there's just like a click point in his pin disc that is set wrong, and he doesn't, and it takes a little bit more effort to make him stand. It's unfortunate that he's the most top heavy of the figures, but it's not terrible. He comes with 10 rings, or at least that ring that's worth 10 rings, and it has a hole in the bottom, but that hole is too big for it to be compatible with a stand. Yeah, it sits there, but it's wobbly. And it's kind of difficult to make the ring stand on its own. This is an accessory that's definitely meant to be stuck onto the Green Hill playset. Not really. Although, he does have a gripping right hand, so he can hold it. Yes, that is a thing that he can do. Alright, last but not least is Tails. We don't really need to go through a breakdown of Articulation, as it is still identical to Sonic and Shadows. But he does have tails added, and I don't like them. I don't like how these tails were attached. Like, when rotated up, they're really far back like that, and of course they make the figure completely top-heavy. You can lean him way forward to compensate for it, but that just looks silly. Like, you can't even really put them all the way down, because then they're pushing him. So, like, they gotta go off to the side slightly like this. So you either have them like that, or you can rotate them around the other direction, they're like that. It's weird. Like, I appreciate, like, they're probably trying to give him a different tail mold than what they usually did, but I have the feeling that they thought that it was supposed to attach at an angle down here so that they would point downwards like this, but when they made the hole in the back of the body, they kind of put it directly straight in instead of at an angle, so it goes up at, you know, like, it's an angle that they weren't expecting is what I'm trying to get at. I mean, if you look real close, you can even see where the straight cut is made at an angle as if they were anticipating that it was going to be down here, but instead it's up here. So you see? Sort of screwed up. Like, you know, way back in the Toy Island line, they had a Tails figure where one tail went down in this direction and the other one went up in the other direction, so that when you held the figure like this, it looked like he had them in the helicopter posture. I feel like I want a Tails figure to have the tails like that again. Like, one of them could still touch the ground so he could stand and tripod himself with them, but, you know, like, you could actually pretend he's flying. Anyway, that's really the only flaw. Everything else on him is great. Again, like, perfectly painted detailing, like he has a little mouth that's sculpted in, and there's a little bit of paint put in there. Good sculpt on his little shoulder floof. The shoulder floof is in front of his arms, but not so much that it gets in the way of the articulation. Like, you can still move his arm in front of himself. Although this is really where I wish he had elbows with a bicep swivel, because, like, I will give credit. The pre-pose elbows with a slight bend to them, it does give the figure a little bit more life. Like, when they're completely stock straight, it can make the figure look a little bit stiff and at attention. Well, this looks a little bit more naturally. Like, that's just, like, this could be how arms hang. Like, in an idle stance, the arms are hanging naturally, and you can bring them up, and combine with wrist swivels, you can have a little bit more dynamism put in there. But, I'm not really 100% on just not having elbows, because, like I said, arms this size can easily support elbow joints. It just feels weird to me that they didn't put them in there. I don't know why. These figures easily could have had elbow joints and truly been the best Sonic figures ever made. Like, as it stands, I'm pretty sure there's already some people debating in the comments whether these are truly better than the Jazzwares figures or not. And a lot of the arguments for Jazzwares are going to go for those elbow joints. And I'm guessing the ball-jointed ankles are going to be a lot in these guys' favors, because I really love those ball-jointed ankles, and they really do help. I mean, Tails doesn't need the ball-jointed ankles because he tripods himself with his tails, but it's still really cool to have ball-jointed ankles so you can get a flat-footed stance and more dynamic poses. It's cool. Like, so close. If they had elbows, it would be completely unambiguously no contest. Tails' accessory is an item bubble from the... I believe item bubbles like this became the default thing that holds stuff since the Sonic Adventure era. I don't know. Maybe it's just the old weeb in me, but I wish it was a TV. Although I guess if they ever come out with the classic line for this, they'll have a TV for that. And it's invincibility. I don't think this can be opened. It seems to be permanently glued, so it's not quite like the Nendoroid where you can like open it up and put different pictures inside. It does have a peg on the bottom. Does that fit in his hand? Yeah. He can hold his accessory just fine. What is that? Oh my god, there's a blue paint mar on his bangs. Where'd that come from? That shouldn't be there. Zero out of 10. You completely failed, Jakks. I think when they were painting his eyes, a little bit of eye paint got in the bang. I don't know. That's the only explanation I can think of. Well, yeah. He can hold his accessory, weird as that may seem, and, yeah, that's Tails. He's fantastic, just like all the others. Alright, at maximum zoom out, here is the cameo from the Green Hill playset, with Sonic, still the only 2.5-inch figure that I have from the series, and all the accessories that the larger figures came with are indeed compatible and can easily plug in on all the points. Although, if you're displaying all 4 accessories, then you really aren't going to have enough points for all the characters, because, like, I have one more peg on the grass, and then the peg that's in the loop-de-loop itself, and then the base would be full. So you can't have all of the 2.5-inch figures displayed and all the accessories displayed at the same time. But, you know, that's just the thing. Maybe, I wonder if the Jakks can, like, do other playsets. Like, if we got this cool loop-de-loop thing, like, would they do Chemical Plant or Mushroom Hill, maybe Ice Cap? You know, like, cool little display features like this. It would be kind of nifty, especially if they started making Badniks. Oh, you know what? That's a great idea. Jakks, don't bother making the rest of the characters in 2.5-inch scale. Save the 2.5-inch scale for Badniks and other small characters, and keep the 4-inch scale for the actual characters themselves. Yeah, that would be a good idea, right? Like if you think that they should divide the 2.5-inch scale and the 4-inch scale that way. That way, instead of picking which scale you like better, you would have incentive to buy both scales. Alright, so this video is probably a little bit overlong, and I said my piece about everything. So thank you all for watching, and I'm super happy that I finally got my hands on all these figures. This is Wakeangel2K1 signing off.